Alright, this video is all about how to upload your payments when you get a payment that's supposed to cover multiple different invoices. So usually this is in a parent-child situation or a distributor situation. So first, you want to make sure that you have the spreadsheet that's including your payment details somewhere saved on your computer. You know the file name that you're looking for, and you need to remember the sheet name that you're going to pull the information from. Okay, in this case you can see that I have my invoices in a column and the payment totals. That's the main thing that I need. Okay, so I have to close that to be able to import from it, but I'm going to remember what that name of that file is and the sheet number. When I'm doing this, I want to go to invoices and make sure that I have include children in totals, so that when I allocate the payment for these invoices, I can assign it to the correct invoices. And then I'm going to go to payments and I'm going to enter. You can see here that I've already entered my check for the total amount and included the check number, but I haven't allocated it yet. If I'm going to apply a discount or an adjustment to this, I need to set up a product for routeman to know what to assign to those adjustment or discount invoices. So let me show how I do that. I go to products, and here I have a product that I've called discount product. You can name it whatever it needs to be named. This will be a non-taxable product. I will leave the all price at 0, and this is something that should not be route available or hotshot available or tracking inventory or anything like that. What this is going to do is, if I've received a payment for less than the total of the invoice, routeman will be able to create a small invoice that makes up the difference, so that I can show that my receivables have been completed, and so that my accounts can be settled. But it also accounts for how much revenue was withheld by a different company, so that I can account for that in my financial statements. So once I have this product created, it can be called adjustment product or discount product or whatever. You will want to go to special product assignments, and here you can see that I've chosen the product and I've flagged this to be my payment adjustment product, and that tells routeman that this is the product that it needs to list on those invoices if I apply a discount. So that's all set up. My check is entered. Now it's time to allocate it. So I'm going to select it and choose edit payment, and then you can see here that I have discount percentage displaying because I have a discount product assigned. If you don't have a product set up, you're not going to see this option. And you can see that there's nothing here showing an adjustment percentage, and that's flagged as a different product, and I haven't set that up, so it's not showing. Now, I happen to know that with my company that I'm receiving these payments for, they've kept 5% of the total of the invoices, so I'm going to enter that here. Now when I choose allocate payment, you can see that it's displaying all the different invoices from the different children. Now what I want to do, actually these buttons are not displaying very well on the color scheme that I've chosen, so if you can't see these in your routeman, you may want to adjust your colors. I just know that the buttons are there. So I'm going to choose upload payment details. I'm going to click on that, and it launches this tool. Here I'm telling routeman where to find the information. So in this case, since I'm using Excel itself, I will choose this one. If it's an Excel type database, I think if you're using Google Sheets, you might use this one at the top, or a CSV file or something like that. You can choose the correct one. And then I'm going to browse to where that's saved on my routeman. So in my case, it's called Payment Import Test. Okay. Now I'm going to enter the name of the sheet that it was on, which in my case was sheet 2, if you remember. Now I hit Load Payment Allocation. Now what it's doing is pulling in the information that it saw on the spreadsheet so that I can see it and match up what I need to do here. So here I'm going to select the column name with the invoice number. That's invoice with the hashtag symbol here. So I'm going to choose, and that's just offering me all the different columns. It's asking me which one is the column that has the invoice number. Happens to be the first one. Okay, if your spreadsheet has extra characters that are added at the beginning of your invoice numbers that are not going to match up with your invoice numbers in routeman, you can tell the import tool to remove the first so many characters to match it up. If you need to, I've never used the find and replace. I'm not exactly sure how to use that. If you find a situation that makes sense, you can experiment with that. Add leading zeros if under 8 characters. Okay, so a lot of times when companies will send spreadsheets with invoice information back to routeman, sometimes ours have zeros at the beginning and they don't copy those on their spreadsheet, so we can say yes, add the zeros if it's under 8. And then they also may not have the dashes, and so if you need to add the dashes as the third character, you would check that box. Number 6 here is asking which information we want to use. So if there were some of these lines that we didn't want to use in this import, we could actually set up a column and use the 1 yes or true to mark which rows we wanted to import, and any of them that didn't have the 1 yes or true, routeman would ignore. I believe that's how that would work, but in most cases you want the whole spreadsheet. And then here in step 7, what we're doing is choosing which column tells routeman how much I got paid. In my case, you can see that it's payment, so I'm going to choose payment right here. And you can see that it did a flash, it did some calculations there, and these numbers changed. A minute ago it didn't show this, it showed a total applied of 0. Now it's saying, considering the 12 invoices, if you add them all up, this is the amount, which I know happens to be exactly how much the check is for. So that's perfect. In some cases, your spreadsheet may have negatives written in the payment totals here, and that just depends on the company that made the spreadsheet. They're looking at it as a negative. So if so, you would click this button and it would instantly reverse all those numbers. Okay, in my case, I'm not. Okay, and then take a look at number 8 here. We have a couple remaining options. One is to create and apply credit invoices to the balance, and because we entered a percentage, we do not want to do that in this case. And then do not overpay invoices. There are some situations, especially with Ready Eyes, where they end up paying more than the total invoice was supposed to be. And so you can read the description of what Jack is saying here if you hover over them and see if it applies to you. Okay, now in my case, I'm ready to go. I'm going to choose import payment. Okay, and it tells me it's complete. Okay, so what's happened here is it's gone through the list, and you notice it's not selecting all the invoices, it's selecting the invoices that were on my spreadsheet. And in each case, it's applying the amount that the payment was supposed to be. And you do end up with something from time to time where, okay, up here it says that I have 3 cents that's unapplied. And if you look at the unpaid balance on some of these, there's a negative penny. Okay, and what that is, just so you understand, has to do with rounding and taxes, and you may see as much as 5, 6, 7 cents. If you would like to clean up these little pennies here and there, if you uncheck and check again, it will tally them up together as far as unpaid balance. So this just has to do with how many digits routeman is using to calculate percentages versus how many digits past the decimal the sending company may have been using. So routeman may be rounding down to the 4th digit while they're rounding down to the 2nd. And when you're dealing with totals in the thousands, then to be off by 8 cents is an understandable situation. Okay, now all of these invoices are going to be marked as paid, and then I want to make sure I click this selection right here. Okay, I've checked it. Create and apply payment discount credit invoice to each paid invoice's unpaid balance. Okay, so what that's doing is creating that small invoice that's going to make up the difference between what I charged and what I got paid. Now that I'm done, I'm going to hit OK, and it may take a moment to process. And then here you see there's a blue invoice and a green invoice listed in this grid. Let me expand it out here so that you can see a little bit better. Okay, and so in each case, what it's done is it's listed the invoice number, and this is blue, and then the green one underneath, it's changed the dash to an underscore, and it's created that in-between adjustment product invoice. Okay, and so that at the end of it, the accounts will be settled for those invoices. Now if I tab over to the invoices, you can see that a lot of these checks, or a lot of these invoices, have been paid by that check. Okay, if you look at them, every second one has that matching invoice that's made for the discount product. And if you look at the invoice, it's listing the discount product, the amount, and then right here it creates a note that goes with it. Okay, alright, now if you're very picky like I am, you're a detailed person, and you don't like this 1 penny, 8 cents, you don't like these little payments hanging out there to just be unapplied, you can actually choose to create an invoice every so often that is called something like distributor adjustment. Create the invoice for that product in the amount of the unapplied number of pennies that's hanging out there, and allocate those unapplied pennies to that invoice so that it balances out. In some cases, it may work in the opposite direction. So it may end up showing as if they owe you just a little bit more, 5 cents, 9 cents, whatever it is. You can do the same thing, and then basically you're able to account for closing those invoices and that those payments are settled. But you can also show those adjustments to your bookkeeper or your accountant at the end of the day. If you have any questions, you're welcome to call the KCS office, and we'll go through this process with you and make sure that it's working for you. Of all the help videos, this is one that may be certainly worth bookmarking, saving the name of this particular video so that you can refer to in the future, because it is quite a process and we don't do it every day. So don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions.